all time. TY, the Lone Star Chef, whatever you want to call me, or whatever it is, you already know what I'm here to do, man. I'm here to talk my. Yeah, I know. It's not about to be a kick you while you down moment. It's not about to be a I'm just coming on here to down the Eagles while they looking down. Nah, this is a moment of realization for y'all Eagles fans. And this is why I told no, you gotta be humble, baby. You gotta be humble, right? And we were supposed to do this the other day, but he wanna just keep talking and talking and talking. So you can't get your point across and they don't want to answer no questions. So I'm gonna come on here and myself and to provide a little clarity. And this is why I say winning ain't everything. Not saying you don't need to win, but winning is not everything when it comes to judging players' performance. Because you can win the game, right? You can win the game, but your team look horrible. That's it's very possible. And it happens a lot with these Eagles. It happens it happened a lot this year. It happened a lot in 2023. Like it happens a lot. You can win the game, but your team still look bad. Um, so this is why winning is not everything. It don't tell the whole story. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to judging players' performances. Now, I think it's mighty funny how I think 2 shows ago, something like that, he just he just said we went toe to toe with the bum giant. And then here it is later, y'all just got mopped by the Giants. Like Molly Wop. Like all my old heads know what that meant. Know what that means? They got Molly Wop by the Giants. Giants drug them. They had Jackson Dart out there looking like a white Mike Vick. That thing was ugly. That game was ugly. The bad John. This is why I was able to start sending my text messages to know. Of course, he didn't respond or answer the phone. I was able to start doing that in the third quarter. You know why? Because the Eagles aren't that good on offense. So when you get down like that and then your defense is not playing very well, the way the Giants was just moving up and down the field on them, they wasn't playing very well. Jalen Hurts is not a Dak Prescott. He can't go toe to toe with you. And this not 5 yard McCarthy days where we just doing 5 yard routes and doing slants and all that. Like, no, this this bull is creative. Scotty is creative. And this is what I was trying to tell people. Scotty is creative. You know what I'm saying? Or I didn't tell people he was creative. We didn't know. But I said, what I'm looking forward to is the unknown. People not gonna know how to play Scotty. Scotty never or you don't know what Scotty schemes are. Scotty hasn't been a head coach yet. So you don't know what his game plans and all that's gonna be. So this is why it was interesting to see. Um this is why it was interesting to see because hold on 1 second. But this is but this is why it was gonna be interesting to see because it's the unknown. And when you're dealing with the unknown, it's like teams ain't gonna know how to play you. Everybody knew they knew, all right, look, we're gonna focus on CD Lamb, we're gonna take him out the equation, and then we're gonna make them find something else. But then it's like when you ain't got no running game, or you're not being creative with your running game, you're not being creative with your passing game. You just playing like you still in the early 2000s, the 90s, early 2000s. Like football didn't change. You know, coaches and offensive coordinators and all them they getting very very creative with how they running schemes. Even defenses are getting creative. So this is why it was going to be interesting to see what Scotty was going to do, and so far the whole world's been impressed. But nonetheless, even with Scotty, creating good game plans or whatever the case may be, um, when Dak Prescott was healthy, Dak always had a top offense. They always had a high scoring offense. And when Dak was out, they offense always fell to the bottom of the NFL. Always. So this is why when people sit there and say, "Oh, Dak is this, Dak this, Dak, blah blah blah," Dak is obviously not the Cowboys' problem. This is why Jerry was comfortable with paying him the money because we have a prolific offense when Dak is healthy and under center. We have a prolific offense. This is why he gave him the money. Our losses in the playoff hasn't been on Dak Prescott. I'm not gonna say he didn't contribute, um, but at the end of the day, quarterbacks throw interceptions. When you throw the ball a lot, you're bound to throw an interception. That doesn't mean that you automatically lose the game. Our defense let us down for the most part all of our playoff losses, except the one in San Fran, and I strictly blame that on coaching. You didn't create a good enough game plan. Even the San Francisco 49ers defense said it. Like they run simple routes. They even said it. They run simple routes. So it's easy to sit there and play your little cover two and all of that and let them run their little 5 yard routes and do this and do that. And we just gonna sit back and watch and anticipate when you're about to throw the ball to CD Lamb. But that's neither here nor there. On the other hand, on the other hand, the Eagles, even the Super Bowl year, even your Super Bowl year, the Eagles never had a top passing offense. They always had a good rushing offense, though. They always had a good rushing offense, though. So for real, y'all quarterback should be y'all running back. Honestly, you know what I'm saying? He should be y'all running back. But I was looking at something, and I found this interesting about the Eagles stats, right? So this year, and tell me if this makes sense. This year, them dudes are number 6 in rushing TD. Number 6. They number 6 in rushing TD. But yet, they number 26 in rushing yards. They 26 in rushing yards, but 6 in rushing TD. Yeah, you know what I mean? And then you know who got most of the TDs? You know who got most of the TDs. Yeah, you know what I mean? But funny thing is, we number 4 in rushing TD. No. Yeah, we number 4 in rushing TD. And we number 8 in rushing yards. Number 8 in rushing yards. Number 4 in rushing TD. So not only are we scoring more rushing touchdowns than y'all, and y'all obviously a rushing team with your tush pushes and Saquon Barkley. You have that? But we better than y'all when it comes to rushing the ball. The only thing the Eagles got us on, and which I think is going to go downhill at this point, is the defense. That's the only thing y'all got us on. And I think that's going to change a bit. That's going to change a bit because guess what? We got all new coaches. So the defenses that dang, what's main man name in Washington? I done forgot main man name. Dan Quinn. The defense that Dan Quinn ran is not the same defense that Eberflus is running. They're not running the same thing. Yeah, I mean, even Trayvon Diggs asked, like, dang, can we start running man more? You know what I'm saying? Because that's what Dan Quinn did. That's why I never understood, like, if anybody play Madden, our cornerbacks, they give them the zone archetype type. But we played a lot of man with Dan Quinn. That made absolutely no sense. We ran a lot of man with Dan Quinn. This is why Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland, and them was getting all them interceptions. Right? This is why they was doing it. And now it looks a lot different because they run in zone, right? That's neither here nor there. They professional. So you gotta adjust. You know what I'm saying? You gotta adjust. But all in all, even with y'all Super Bowl year, y'all passing offense was horrible. Y'all passing offense is always at the bottom of the league. So how could you possibly think that Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott, right? Winning is not just on one person. But when you're trying to evaluate position for position, you judge one based off of what they do at that position. And what Dak Prescott does at his position, Jalen Hurts come nowhere near close. Last night proved. See, when Russell Wilson came out looking like a young Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, when he came out, Dak went toe to toe with him. They went toe to toe. Eventually, the defense got to make a play. Or maybe Russell made a mistake. Who knows, right? You can call it either way. But Dak went toe to toe with him, just as well as Jordan Love. He went toe to toe with him. And one might ask, dang, well, how Green Bay blow him out in that playoff game? Coaching. It's coaching. If McCarthy would have adjusted, it's coaching. The only thing that's different, because we still got the majority of the same players except George Pickens. I mean, of course, our line switched up a little bit and everything. Now, we do got new running backs and all that. We do got quite a few new players, right? But the biggest thing that changed was the scheme. That was the biggest thing that changed, right? I don't know how many coordinators Dak had, but all of them, he made them all look good. All of them. Anytime he's healthy, we got a top 5, top 10 off. And it's not top 10 where we number 10 or number 9. It's like top 10 where we might be like 6 or 7. Yeah, I mean, if we top 10, because normally we really just top 5 and fall even between 1 or 3. Like, seriously. Yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts is nowhere near better than Dak Prescott at quarterback. And this is what I wanted this man to understand. I even said this to this man the other day, too. I said, listen, that record is blinding you. whereas though you're not seeing the mistakes that your team is making. You're not seeing it. But you tell someone, well, teams are finding ways to beat themselves, they don't want to hear it. Yeah, I mean, so therefore, you just gotta let it play out. Because the Eagles didn't change how they look. The only thing, the Giants just didn't make a lot of mistakes. And what I mean by mistakes, they capitalized on all day opportunities. They caught their passes. They if you know what I'm saying, like they did what they needed to do. That was the only thing that set us apart from our game. Our receivers dropped a lot of passes that game, and that's fine. We, you know, we can't be mad at that. They didn't have preseason, and anybody know that you working out and training and all that. It's not like real game football. You know what I'm saying? You need to get in football shape. You can be in shape, but you need to get in football shape. It's different when you're out there on that field. These dudes trying to take your head off. You're running with all this equipment on and all that, and the game is a lot faster. You know what I'm saying? In practice, ain't nobody really trying to get hurt and all that. I ain't doing all that. But it's different during game time when people is playing for their check. So that was expected. I ain't mad at that, right? But Dallas had 3 or 4 drives where they could have easily took the lead. All they needed to do was capitalize on one of those drives, and they would have won the game. You had a drive where um, main man Sanders had dropped the fumble in the red zone. You had that. Then you had like 3 or 4 passes that CD dropped um, that should have extended the drive, or this man would have 9 times out of 10 scored a touchdown. Right? Can't cry over spilt milk. The game was the game. We lost. It is what it is. Right? But it wasn't us losing because of anything that the Eagles defense was doing to us. It was us sticking ourselves with the knife. And it came back to haunt us. Cool. It is what it is. We moved on. Right? We moved on. Another game was the Bears game. But now the way it's starting to look, because everybody sit there and say, "Oh, this was the Jets." I guess people forget that the Jets defense is not considered a bum. And then even with their offense, they was in every game that they lost, except for ours. They was in every game that they lost, except for ours. Back to Jalen Hurts and Dak Prescott. Y'all both played the Giants defense. You could argue, it was different quarterbacks because anybody like to find an excuse. Um, but what you can't argue is the defense, right? And that same defense that Jalen Hurts just played, where he got a 72 completion percentage, 283 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a 95 QBR. Dak got a 73% completion rating, 363 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, a 96 QBR. Right. Um, and if I'm not mistaken, didn't he? Hold on, I think he got a rushing TD in that game too, didn't he? I believe he got a rushing TD in that game too. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he did. I believe that was the game that he was talking trash in. Nah, he didn't. That wasn't the game. That wasn't the game. He just got rushing yards. That wasn't the game. Um, but all in all, that same game, where we put up 40, or that same team we put up 40, that same defense we put up 40 on, y'all only scored like 17 points. The game was in your quarterback hand. You couldn't give it to Saquon no more. Y'all was down by too much. He crapped the bed. You know what I'm saying? Which y'all love to say that Dak does just because, the quarterback get all the glory, get all the shame. But we don't look at all the other moving pieces. We don't look at all the other moving pieces. We just blame everything on the quarterback because they lost. It is what it is, right? Even when passes bounce off of receivers' hands and then get picked off, y'all somehow want to blame it on the quarterback. Fun fact. And I love my son and death. He came to me, he said, "Oh, Dad, don't you think maybe Dak is probably throwing the ball too hard?" Like, and we had a little joke about it. We laughed about it a little bit, but it's like I I, I wish a receiver would come to the sideline and say, "Oh, you threw the pass too hard," or whatever the case may be. But I told him, I said, "Look, that's you looking for any reason to try to blame Dak for everything, and it really don't be Main Man. Main Man is pretty accurate. Um, and he's a decent quarterback. Not even a decent, for real. Because if you look at his numbers, he's an elite quarterback. So all those quarterbacks that y'all want to keep, boom, boom, boom. If you look at a lot of different stats, minus the Russian stats, if you look at every quarterback stat, the only person that's an active QB right now, or the only two people that's an active QB right now that might jump ahead of Dak is Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. And then if anybody else is probably a quarterback that don't play much, whatever the case may be. But any quarterback that minus I'm gonna say yard. I believe it's yard. That's probably the one stat that you might get Joe Burrow and all them, and even that, I think that's based on how a team plays. Not necessarily um not necessarily your quarterback doing a bad job. It's just, y'all might run a little more than y'all throw it. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, right? But all in all, when it comes to QB, Dak is a way better QB than Jalen Hurts. Way better. And it ain't just last night game that proved it. You can go look at any metric between the two of them. The only thing Jalen Hurts might have over him, the only thing, or the only two things is rushing yard, rushing yard, and interception. And the interception is not that far off. But Main Man haven't been, well, he didn't turn the ball over a lot last year. And he started off this year good. But the year before that, I believe he led the league in interception. Um, and for the most part, I'm not, I can remember Yeah, he got a pretty decent amount of interceptions. So the interceptions is not going to be that far off, and if it is, it's only because Dak got more years on him. Um, but they still kind of like similar. Um, those would be the only two stats. Anything else, Dak is blowing him out the water. Um, yeah, that's crazy. Like I don't even think Main Man touched a 300-yard game yet this season. I don't even think he touched the 300-yard game yet this season. Um, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, let me see. I don't think he did. I don't think he touched the 300-yard yet game this season. Nah, he did. And but Dak got a few games over 300, and then most of the times his joints fall in between like 230 to 250. And I think he only had one game where he was under 200 yards. I think he threw like 188 yards. But I think Hurts had like 3 games where man was had like 150 yards or whatever, something like that, 150 yards or less or something. But all in all, they don't compare. They do not compare. Um, so we need to dead that conversation. It is what it is. DC for life. We got to find a new, or at least in Philadelphia, because nobody in their right mind would say Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott, except delusional Philadelphia fans. But nobody in the sports world. Yeah, man. Nobody in the sports world. Except I ain't even gonna get into it. We ain't even gonna get into it. All in all, that was a decent game last night. We'll see what happens. Y'all play Minnesota next week. Hopefully by then y'all figured y'all stuff out. Minnesota ain't somebody to sleep on. But let's just hope this not about to be 2023 again. At least 2023, y'all got 10 wins before y'all went downhill. Right? Let's just hope this not about to be another 2023. Because if it is, boy, hey, no, go to that bar that you've been making friends in. I bet you wasn't in there last night. And if you did, if you was, you left after halftime. About them Cowboys.